Hello and welcome to today's video. Today reviewing another pen from Benu, and it is their newest model. It is this. This is the, now I'm probably going to say this wrong, the Haute, H-A-U-T-E, Haute. This is the Allure version of the pen, and it is absolutely gorgeous. So as I said, this is a new model from Benu. Benu have been known to make super vibrant pens with lots of bright colors and glitter, and this pen doesn't necessarily stray from that too much, but I kind of feel like it's just a little bit more subdued, or dare I say grown up, and I love it. So we'll talk about the parts and features, do a writing sample, all that kind of stuff. This is how the pen comes packaged. It comes in a nice sort of simple cardboard box, white cardboard, nice print on it, all that. It comes in this little paper, tray envelope-y thing. You get some information. You get a nice long cartridge here, and I believe it's Diamine Oxford Blue, which winner, great ink. And then it sits in just a bed of paper. So, nice recyclable, clean packaging, nothing fancy, nothing sort of that's going to get in the way of enjoying the pen or the experience of unpacking it. So let's talk about this pen. Top of the pen, as you can see, it's got smooth, sort of slightly domed end. It's a rounded square shape, so it's like primarily square and with these nice sort of rounded corners. The cap swells up to the center, and it's got a little band, and then the Benu silver band, and then Benu sort of engraved and filled with silver as well. The clip is cut in, and it's really springy. It does the job perfectly fine. It's not the strong, the stiffest clip, but it does work very nicely. And actually there's a little divot just in behind the clip where that, sits in. So when you're using it, it can sit out nice, and then it gives it a nice sort of flush profile when it is down. The cap tapers slightly, and then we move on to the barrel, and that same squared pattern, faceted squared pattern continues along. And that tapers to another sort of rounded end. Now, as you can see, or I should say, it is a twist cap pen, and it comes off in about 2 turns. The material goes from this sort of like chatoyant or sort of slightly shimmery dark blue through these glitters into a more transparent light blue, which we can actually see the converter through there. So yes, it is a cartridge converter pen, and Benu does use Standard International. The section is the lighter material with the glitter, and on the cap we get the glitter to the blue again. Now, personally, I probably would have reversed the cap, so you get the darker blue in the middle, and then, more symmetrically go out. But I kind of also like the fact that it's sort of, we get this like hit of this lighter material through the middle there. So, it's 6 of one, half a dozen of the other, really. But this material is really beautiful. You get, when the light catches that sort of glittery material in the acrylic, it's really beautiful. I chose this particular finish. It was either this or the satin for me. I chose this one simply because, to me, it felt like something like the Great Barrier Reef, which, if you're not familiar, is a coral reef off the east coast of Australia. I have been, when you're in places like Cairns, you are relatively close to the Great Barrier Reef, and have had the experience of both flying over it and also going out on the water on the reef. I've never dived it. I would love to do that one day, but, we only have so much time. So the Great Barrier Reef means a lot to me as an Australian, and something about this caught my eye. As soon as I saw it, I went, oh my gosh, that looks like the Great Barrier Reef. Because as you fly over it, for instance, you see the reef underneath the water, and it's in this like beautiful light blue sort of color. And then as you go out, you get to the teals and the darker blue. So it really tied in nicely. So at the end of the threads, you get this little chrome band again. Nice smooth threads, and then a section that is not super thick, it tapers slightly and a little flare out, and then we get a number 6 size nib. Now it's branded Benu, and it's branded as fine, but as you can see from the little cutouts on the side, this is the elastic fine or the flex fine. This pen, as I looked on the Benu website today, comes with fine, medium, broad, elastic fine, 1.1, 1.5, and then a range of gold nib options. And of course, the gold nib options cost considerably more because they are gold, and there is the plastic feed. Now, by the look of this nib, traditionally Benu have used Schmidt nibs. And I'm just going to pull up a Euphoria here with a Schmidt nib. You can see the shape of the nib is slightly different. And, you know, the design on the nib is definitely different. This to me feels more like a Yovo nib. I don't know, but that's what it feels like to me. So I'm assuming. You screw the body off those threads at the end of the section, and it comes with a Schmidt converter here. Super solid converter, always reliable, and relatively easy to replace either with Schmidt or other standard international size converters if you need to. One thing I will say at this point, and this is something that I will mention very, very slightly in the cons, is that it doesn't line up perfectly when the threads are tight. So if I tighten the threads down completely, you see that the facet runs, like the corner of the facet runs down the nib. I don't know if that's going to be visible here, but to get I personally would have this so that the flat runs down the face of the nib, but then of course you can see the barrel is slightly loose there. So maybe that is how they design it to be, where you get the corner down the flat of the nib. That's just the way it is so that it's tight. It doesn't change the writing of the pen. It's just a little sort of primarily aesthetic thing that I have noticed. And that is the basics of the pen. Now, I will do a size comparison, writing sample, all that kind of stuff. I should say that depending on how you thread the pen, the facets do run flat down the pen off the cap. So that's not a concern, but it's just with the nib. But yes, that's the basics of the pen. Let's do a size comparison. So we'll put it alongside the standard Lamy Safari there, but I also wanted to put it alongside my favorite Benu pen model, which is the Euphoria. This particular one is the autograph series. So it's got, this is one where I had the line from one of my favorite Verdi operas, Tutto nel mondo è burla, hand painted on the pen. It's the first line of the famous fugue that ends Verdi's opera Falstaff, if you're playing along at home. But yes, this is how the pens sort of compare. The Haute pen model is ever so slightly smaller here than the Euphoria. The Euphoria is a big pen, only by a couple of millimeters, but just slightly, but both are considerably larger there than the Lamy Safari. Those comparative sizes continue in the uncapped form. You can see both have a number 6 size nib versus the smaller Lamy nib, but both are good size pens in the hand, and those sections are roughly the same kind of size. The Benu Haute does post, but not super deep. It makes it around the same length as the Euphoria, but the Euphoria does post just a little bit better, and they're both considerably longer there than the Lamy Safari. So what are the dimensions of this specific model? Well, it is 147 millimeters when it is capped. It's 137 when it's uncapped. So very nice, usable size in the hand. Very nice, actually. And then when posted, it's about 182. So it is longer. It is, I should say, it does post securely, just not very deep, and it doesn't quite feel like it ever really posts, on there that well. But it is secure. It's just a feeling thing. Around the section is about 10 millimeters, around the cap at its widest point about 17. The pen weighs 24.5 grams, 14.5 in the body, 10 in the cap. So with this length and how shallow it posts, I do feel the weight of the cap on the back there. It does post. You can, if you're one of these wonderful pen users who loves to post their pens and must post, it does post. I just don't feel the need to myself, as like most of my pens, I don't necessarily feel the need to post the pen. I prefer the balance of these unposted. Just for the sake of the exercise here, I've just taken the section out of the Euphoria, and it does thread perfectly comfortably there into the body of the Haute pen. So Benu have a tendency to use a similar size grip section across a lot of their pen models, and this is no exception to that. So, if it's a little looser perhaps on the threads than its own grip section, but it does work. Okay, let's do a writing sample now with the Benu Haute. I'm still probably saying that wrong. And this is the Allure model. This is a number 6 elastic fine or fine flex. depending on where you look, nib, and it is steel. The ink I have in this today is a Van Diemen's ink. It's from the Lost Vistas collection, and it is Beaches of Pompeii. Little almost skip there. One thing I will say about these elastic fine or fine flex nibs is that, and I've tried a couple now, often as a left-handed writer, the angle you're writing on, because the nibs do sort of bend around a little bit, like they're not super flexy, it's just like a slight little bounce. I'd say soft as opposed to flex, is that occasionally you can get the tines just sort of push ever so slightly out of alignment. They spring straight back, but you can get the tines slightly out of alignment and you get like a little pull or catch on the paper, and sometimes that can lead to like a little bit of a skip. So it's sort of a bit more angle dependent there. The more upright, as a left-handed writer, the more upright you write, the better the writing experience. When you bring the angle down and you start to turn the pen in your hand a little bit, you can lose a little bit of that. Let's just do a writing sample. So it is a relatively wet nib, as a lot of these sort of flexier nibs can kind of tend to be. Reverse writing, very fine, very dry, but relatively smooth. Fast writing, like it keeps up relatively well. Once again, just a couple of spots where if I change the angle too much, it tends to like just not quite make the right purchase on the page. As a right-handed writer, it's perfectly okay. It's smooth. It's, once again, it's not super, it's a little bit wet. It's nice. It's a nice writer. The issue I have here, and it's not an issue so much, my point here, I'll change the angle so I can get closer to the right-handed angle, is that we're not talking about flex. Like, elastic does not mean it is going to flex out. It's not going to flex out like some of those, modern Magna Carta nibs or anything like that. Definitely not like anything vintage. It's just a softness. So if you're writing and you get like a nice sort of strong downstroke or something, you can just get a little bit of shape in the stroke, which just adds a little bit of personality. Not flex, soft, similar to something like some of those, like the Pilot Custom 823 nib or something like that just has a little bit of bounce in it, or some of those Pelican nibs. Not soft, but just enough to like give you a sense of a little bit of sort of, suspension on the page. Okay, so this new range of pens, and there are a bunch of different finishes in this collection. They start at $210 US, which is not inexpensive for a steel nib cartridge converter pen, but you're getting cool materials, you're getting like a nice pen model, and it is the upper price point, but I think Benu sort of do sit just in there, and I think you get good value pen for the money. Like, it writes spectacularly for the most part. So what are my pros and cons? Well, obviously the con for me personally, of the nib not sitting flat on one of those sort of square facets, that's an issue for me, but maybe that's me. And the other thing is, of course, with these like fine flex nibs, is that it's soft. Please don't think of this as flex. It is not flex. It is soft. So, elastic, semi-flex, fine flex, extra fine flex, whatever they're called, particularly in steel nibs, omniflex if they're the Yovo versions, all that kind of thing, they are just soft. They require quite a lot of pressure to create that softness. So don't be expecting vintage flex. But there are tons of pros with this pen. Firstly, that material. I mean, look at it. It's absolutely gorgeous. Like the dark blues into the shimmer, which sort of, drifts into that beautiful, tealy blue, transparent acrylic. It's just lovely. It's gorgeous. And with the silver trim, I think it's perfect. As I said, to me, as soon as I saw this, it reminded me of the Great Barrier Reef. I think it's absolutely beautiful. In regards to the design, I love this sort of squared with rounded corners sort of design. I think it's really elegant. As I said, it feels a little bit more grown up than some of the other models from Benu. Like, there's nothing wrong with this pen model, the Euphoria. I love the Euphoria model, but it is big. It is sort of like chunky, and this is a little bit more refined. I really love it. I also love the build quality, of course. Like Benu, they know what they're doing, and they're beautifully made. And the nib, it's lovely. It writes well. It's smooth. Being a number 6 size nib and having many options, you can swap it out if you desired. And I'm going to keep the elastic fine on here for a while, but I may eventually swap this out for something sort of a bit more everyday writer, just to enjoy that experience with a pen as well. It's really, really lovely. But one thing I really want to say is Benu is a really good company. The people there are so nice. They really have their heart and heads in the right place in this industry, and I really appreciate them and what they do. So, thank you for watching this review. I hope you found it interesting and useful. Please like and subscribe, hit the notifications button, all that kind of stuff. A big thank you to Benu for sending this pen out for this review. They've supported my channel quite a lot over the last couple of years, and I really appreciate it. And I will link to their website down below so you can check out their range there. In the meantime, enjoy your pens, enjoy writing, and I'll talk to you soon.